The Epic of Sango. Chapter 1. Tendaji the Betrayer. This is a story from the times of heroes, Nephilim, and magic. A time so long ago it is spoke about as myth. This story comes from the land currently known as Africa, before she was known as Kush, Kemet, or Niger. This is a tale from Alkebulan, a time when this land was one. This is the Epic of Sango, a boy who would become Alkebulan's greatest king and savior. Our story starts on the 5th day of the 5th month in the year 243 BC, as Sango is training to become a warrior in his father's army. Sango is in the training yard known as the Gate of Champions, with his instructor, the leader of the Amotecan beastmen Sikisi, the Isakopo. The train yard is 100 yards in width by 100 yards in length. In each corner stands a 30-foot statue of Sango's great-great-grandfather, Anansi the king, who united the land of Alkebulan, which are made of bronze, forged to match Anansi's muscular build. The crowns are hewn from gold that shines like the sun, then adorned with diamonds and emerald gemstones. In the center of the crown is the diamond, each one as large as an elephant. To each side of the diamond are 2 emeralds of equal size. The diamond represents Anansi and his kingship. The 4 emeralds represents his brothers. The gold symbolizes the land of Alkebulan, which they protect. Each statue has wings upon their back, made of the pure set and whitest ivory, with wingtips of gold. The right hand of each one is holding the Flissa sword, a long one-sided blade with the blunt side elegantly decorated with the fauna of Alkebulan, followed by an inscription: Kuweka moto kwa adui zangu, na kuleta amani kwa Alkebulan. Set fire to my enemies and bring peace to Alkebulan. Finished with a bronze hilt in the shape bull elephant's head. The walls are 20 feet high, made from 6 feet thick white granite that glimmered like polished pearls, covered in sparsely dispersed crawling vines. The lawn is the deepest emerald green. At its center stands an 11-year-old Sango and Sikisi. The Amotecan are demi-humans, said to the offspring of fallen angels and cheetahs. Being such, they have the bodies of mankind, with hands and feet like mankind, but the heads and face of a cheetah. Their bodies covered in fur. The Amotecan also carry the attributes of the cheetah. Demi-humans with the speed, power, and ferocity of their namesake, the cheetah. Being one of these demi-humans, Sikisi is the strongest of the Amotecan. Siki stands 80 feet tall with the face of a cheetah that is valiant, that bears a vertical scar through his right eye. His body fully covered in spotted fur, like a cheetah with a muscular build, showing his years of training. Sikisi's garb is befitting of his position of Isakopo. His breastplate made of gold, emblazoned with the impondulu. His shirt is made of the finest thread of sheep's wool. His pants are made of the toughest leather, leviathan hide that's been tanned, then dyed blue to match his shirt. He wore a necklace made of bull's leather, holding a solitary clear oval-shaped ruby, the gemstone of the Amotecan chieftain. Sikisi was heralded as a genius martial fighter, user of Idan and weapons. The only person he could not best was Sango's father, his best friend Prince Ori, who later became king. Sango, the only child of King Ori. Sango stands 6 feet tall at the age of 11, wearing the same clothes as Sikisi for being his apprentice. With one exception. His necklace had a diamond, signifying he's the High Prince of Alkebulan, only son of King Ori and heir to the throne. Sango has piercing ruddy-colored eyes, skin the tone of the purest onyxy, and long-locked brownish-black hair. Though his strength has not yet caught up to his body, he is widely regarded as a once-in-a-lifetime prodigy in weapons as well as martial arts. His Idan is adept to all elements, including light and dark Idan. His potential eclipses even that of his father Ori, who only was adept at light Idan, Also Sikisi, who was adept at lightning Idan. Up to this point he has only trained in weapons. Due to the strain of using Idan at an early age, the people of If aren't allowed to train their Idan until the age of 16, when their bodies can take the strain of using it. Sikisi and Sango stand in the middle of the training ground, sweating profusely, both wielding wooden training swords. Sikisi yells to Sango, "Young prince, if you can land one hit on me, we will end today's training session early." Sango replies, "If I land one hit on you, allow me to train my Idan starting tomorrow." "Okay, young prince, if you can land one hit on me, I will teach you the basics of honing your Idan tomorrow," Sikisi bellowed in his deep, commanding voice with a chuckle. "Now come strike me." Sango gets down in his fighting stance, crosses his wooden short practice swords. Then, with a look of determination in his eyes, he yells, "Here I come." Meanwhile, in the northeastern province of Alkebulan, the land of Ptah, Umbusi Tendaji, King Ori's cousin was making plans of conquest. The land of Ptah, renowned for its philosophical thought, but greater known for its beauty. But beneath the prosperity lurked a dark side. An evil, vengeful, greedy force was festering, plotting to burn it all down. 280 years in the past, King Anansi united the land of Alkebulan under one house, the House of Impundulu. He divided the lands into 5 parts, giving his brothers 4 provinces to reign over. This way the nation will always be protected by the House of Impundulu, to avert war and make the nation prosperous via trade within the brothers. 1. The northeast province of Ptah, he gave to his eldest brother Heru. Heru wanted the land of Ptah, for he loved the flowing deserts, the fertile lands that border the Yaru, which were green with rolling hill and valleys, teeming with life. His most favorite attribute was the Sea of Yam-Suf. Its harvests were always bountiful. Great markets that were packed with people, where salted seafood could be traded throughout Alkebulan, along with all manner of artisanal goods. Heru calling his lineage the House of Phoenix, for he was reborn through the fire of Anansi, through war that leads to peace. 2. The central province of Twa to his brother Aid. Aid was partial to the land of Twa. He fell in love with its vast green plains, its dense jungles, the sheer variety of fauna, but most of all its many freshwater lakes. He also just so happened to find his wife there as well. The people of Twa were also very welcoming, hard-working farmers, herdsmen, and produced the best garments. Aid named his lineage the House of Beta, the 7-headed snake, for he fought for 7 years, 7 months, and 7 days to bring peace and abundance to the land of Twa. 3. The southwest province of Himba to his brother Cheek. Cheek was fond of Himba, but not for the reasons he bothers liked their provinces. Even though Himba had markets, great food, beautiful lands, and busy townships, he was more fond of the people of Himba, the Himba for which the province was named. The large majority of them being herders, living simple lives. They were known as the Red Clay people. He named his lineage the House of Abada, for his fight healed the land. 4. The southeast province of Bemba to his brother Amadu. Amadu cared for this place. See, he loved the sunsets and sunrises. He would watch from the tallest hills he could find. The sky always looked more beautiful there than anywhere else in Alkebulan to him. See, he named his lineage the House of Ngandu, because his siege of was tactful, skillful, and quick, like the strike of a crocodile. 5. Anansi, taking the northwest province of If for himself, as it was the birthplace of his family. He claimed it in honor of his fallen mother, father, and sisters. He then built the capital city of Sankore, which was later named Timbuktu. Anansi kept his lineage name, the House of Impondulu, for him and his brother were swift and powerful. in their conquest. It took 9 years from the time their family was murdered to finish the conquest. But 9 years to subjugate an entire continent is very fast. The land thrived and was overflowing with abundance for 280 years until Tendaji grew tired of his position and set his eyes upon the throne. Back in land of Ta, Tendaji is with his council inside the war room his grandfather Heru once used. The room is grand, boasting 60-foot-high vaulted ceilings, 80 feet wide by 100 feet in length. The walls are lined with statues and pictures of the warriors of old. Each corner of the room has a figure of a phoenix, the ceiling decorated with a painting of his grandfather Heru. The war table is gilded in gold and made from the wood of the baobab tree. At its head is Tendaji, aka Tendaji, the behemoth, standing 7 feet tall, 310 pounds of muscle, with skin the color of bronze. His face is ruggedly handsome. He wears a crown of gold with an emerald in its center that symbolizes he place in the hierarchy the Duke of Ta. On this day, Tendaji's clothing is pure white, made of silk. His massive hands have a ring on each finger. His bald head resembles a polished chestnut. His beard long and shiny like pure black lamb's wool. Tendaji was not only a charismatic man, but a brilliant strategist, as his cousin and sworn brother Ori was about to find out. Tendaji begins to question his top generals Awan, Metafo Dragoni, the 3 flying dragons, Chima God's wings, though small in stature. His earth, Idan, was unmatched in all of Ta, as tall and large as Tendaji. He lacked charisma. Azizi God's sword, as tall and large as Tendaji. He lacked charisma. But what he was unrivaled in was his martial skill. Azizi studied his martial arts in the land of the rising sun, and Tabgach, also known as Chin. There was not a soul that could match him in hand-to-hand combat. Except for Tendaji, Makena God's strength. She was the only woman that was a general. Makena was widely regarded as the most beautiful woman in all the land of Ta. She is also a tall woman, an Amazon, standing 6 feet tall with skin the color of ebony clay. Long black hair with a voice that could soothe any beast or man. She was Tendaji's twin sister, even though she was a beauty. Her true talent was information gathering, the most cunning of the 4. Her strategic skills rivaled those of her brother Tendaji. On the table lies a map of the nation of Alkebulan. Chima, Makena, Azizi, are your troops ready? I am sending you all out in 5 days to begin our assault on the nation, to become her rulers. Tendaji spoke, as his voice echoed throughout the war room. Yes, they replied, each one naming which province they are to attack, along with the number of troops. Makena states, I have 500,000 troops ready to march on the central province of Trois Your Grace. Azizi follows. I have 520,000 troops ready to march on the province of Himba, Your Majesty. And I have 790,000 troops to march on Bemba, my lord and friend, declared Chima. Ha, yes, ready your troops outside of the palace walls. I will speak to them at daybreak in 4 days. This is the beginning of a new era. I will wipe out every trace of the house of Impundulu, so that I may never be challenged for the throne. Only I, Tendaji, the behemoth, will be ruler of the nation, sole heir to the throne of Alkebulan. Now go, my Enfo Dragoni, because in 5 days we unleash hell on the kingdom, yelled Tendaji. Back in the land of Ife, inside the training grounds of the Ivory Palace, Sikisi and Sango continue their training. Sango slides backwards, catching his balance, while wiping the sweat from his brow. He clenches his teeth, and with a cheeky grin he says, Is it me, or is the great Sikisi starting to slow down, or have I just gotten better than you? There is no doubt that you have gotten better, young prince, but you are at least 2 decades from matching or even besting me with a blade. "Now stop talking and strike me, Sango," retorted Sikisi energetically as he changed the grip on his practice swords and charged towards him. "I will get you this time, teacher," Sango confidently stated. Suddenly there's a shout, "Sango!" as Sango charged Sikisi. It was deep and loud enough to rattle the halls of the ivory palace. Slap, slap, boom. Sikisi tumbled over. "Hey, I told you I would get you this time, Sikisi. Now you have to teach me Idan," teased Sango. "If not for your father bellowing your name like a bull elephant in heat and distracting me, you would be firmly on your backside, young prince," declared Sikisi as he rubs his head, embarrassed by the tumble. "Sikisi, I see that my son has gotten the better of you. Looks like he will be starting his studies into Idan sooner than we all thought," laughed King Ori. "It would seem so, old friend," replied Sikisi sheepishly. "Sango, come here, my child. Sit at my feet and let me speak to you." King Ori gently spoke to Sango. As he sat down on a bench made from rhino horn and ivory, Sango replied, "Here I come, father," as he hurried excitedly and sat at his father's feet. "I will allow you to study Idan under one condition. You must only focus on cultivating the power of Idan. You must not use it until you are 16, as your body is not yet strong enough to control it. If you swear to this condition, I will allow Sikisi to teach you Idan and have an Ajay come and train you in the art." Ori spoke firmly but soft to Sango. "Yes, I agree, father." "Yes," Sango quickly replied, with all the exuberance of a child that just received his greatest wish. Great, my son. Your training is over for the day. Now go enjoy the day. I must talk with Sikisi." "Okay, father. Thank you," Sango said as he ran from the training grounds at full speed, his brown dreadlocks flying in the wind. "Sikisi, my old friend, it will have been officially 20 years since I have taken over the throne. Do you remember the prophecy the Agioba spoke to us?" "Ori, how could I ever forget? It was the most eerie prophecy I had ever heard. I remember the words like they were spoken yesterday. She said, 'Ori, in 20 cycles, one conqueror will come from your grandfather Anansi's line to destroy the familial Idan Ajay of the house of Impundulu. One who is filled with hatred and envy will set the land on fire. But this fire will not bring peace like the fire of Anansi. This fire will bring despair and hardship to the land of Alkebulan. To protect the bloodline, you must face him. You must face this monolith and die in order to save your son, who will be the savior of the bloodline. You, chief of the Amotekun, strongest Jagun warrior of the Beastmen. You must protect the young one who is destined to save the land. You will journey with him along with an Ajay. From there you will bring him to me. Here is a blade, the Idan Ohun Ija, magic weapon. You must give it to him on this day. It will grow in strength as he grows in strength and stature. Ori, whatever you do, you must not try to prevent this. This will only quicken this event, as well as you will be called a tyrant and a dictator. You will garner the ire of the people. If that happens, the bloodlines will forever be lost, and so will all hope for Alkebulan. Yes, Sikisi, my oldest and dearest friend, I feel that day is coming closer. I want you to get the Idan Ohun Ija blade. Keep it with you every day, so as to be prepared for when the day comes. Here is a letter. You are not to give this to Sango until you reach the village of the Ajay." "Yes, my king. I swear to you as the chief of the Amotekun and your dearest friend." "Good. I am glad I can always count on you. Now please go enjoy your family. We might not have many days of peace left. Enjoy them while you can, my friend." Then both men parted ways. The next day in the training grounds, Sango starts his Idan training in the Gate of Champions. The sky is blue. The sun is bright without a cloud in the sky. A calming breeze blows. Sango's newly hatched pet Impundulu Yaya, African bird of thunder and lightning, chirps and sings as she's perched on a straw training dummy. Sango sits back straight, legs crossed with his fingers laced and palms facing upwards. While Sikisi walks around him with his arms behind his back, Sango suddenly blurts out, "Ah, this is way too hard. It is also boring. Maybe I shouldn't have been so excited to train in Idan. I sense nothing but the wind, the earth beneath where I'm sitting, and Yaya's chirping. Maybe I shouldn't have been so eager to train my Idan," as he sucks his teeth, startling Yaya with his boisterous tone. "If you have time to complain, you have time to focus on your inner levels of Idan," quipped Sikisi, bopping Sango on the head with a wooden stick. "Sango, young prince, do you understand the place in which you are training right now? The Gate of Champions is where every king of legend has trained, the greatest of which is your greatest of grandfathers, Anansi. He was the strongest warrior and greatest king to ever train here. He alone trained his 4 brothers before they set out to unite the land. During his campaigns, he became known as Nfu Isakopo. With his prowess in the martial arts and Idan of light, he was able to fail every enemy that was in front of him, razing every foe army to ashes. His greatness started here. As will yours, my young prince. Now focus." "But what if I never become great like my grandfather?" whined Sango. With a solemn look upon his face, he continues, "Grandfather Anansi was so wise, so mighty, so strong and so valiant, none of which I am." Sikisi's face hardened at the boy's words, his brow furrowed, accompanied with a steel gaze in his eyes, his lips curled, pushing his cat-like nose up, exposing his sharp teeth. Sikisi snarled before he shouted, with an intensity that shook Sango to his core, "What if you never become great like Anansi Sango? No, you will not be as great. You will be greater, wiser, stronger, more valiant, more mighty. You are purposed." Sikisi's expression and tone softened as he spoke his next words to Sango. "You will be more, young prince. I have told you the stories of Anansi's greatness, but not of who he was as a boy and young man before he was known as Anansi, the Nfu Isakopo. Anansi was not always a great man. Matter of fact, he was just the opposite. Even though very talented, Anansi was considered a vagabond, lazabout, and trickster. See, he was the youngest son of a blacksmithing family, whose father was the greatest smither of Idan weapons. He never showed much interest in weapon making. As being the youngest, his mind was always on playing tricks and relaxing in the baobab tree, fantasizing about what trick he could play next and how funny it would be. He would snicker to himself, "Heh, that would great and funny," soon earning him the name Anansi, the trickster. He spent his days like that, endlessly lazing about, eating fruit and playing tricks, until one day disaster struck. On his 20th birthday, his village was raided while he was lazing about. When he came home, his entire village was razed to ashes. He ran as fast as he could to his home, hoping his family was okay. But the scene he walked into was not what he wanted to see. His sister, his father and mother were all dead, their blood plastered all over their home, the forge covered in body parts, the floor on which he once played as a child drenched in a sea of blood. The house reeked of death. Anansi throws up at the sight of it all, and with tears streaming down his face, he lets out the loudest cry, "No! I was just about to tell you about my day." He sobbed as he held his dead mother's body in his arms. He puts his mother down and gets up to inspect the rest of the village to see if anyone survived the attack. He runs from house to house as every home looked like his. Homes on fire, shops burned down, entire families dead. Bodies upon bodies littered about like ripped-up papyrus thrown in the wind. He thought to himself, "I had heard whispers of fighting and raids happening, but I never thought it would come here." His older brothers were off training their Idan, and he would not see them for another 2 years. At that moment, Anansi realized he was alone. He alone had to start the task of burying the bodies and marking the graves, planting the food and tending to what little cattle was left. After placing all the bodies, he swore to himself that he would never play another trick. In fact, he would begin training himself. Once strong enough, he would go to find his brothers in the village of the Ajay. So Anansi went on every day for 1 year, tending to the village and training himself. Until 5 days after his 21st birthday, he headed out with the meager rations and small cattle he had to sell at market and eat himself. During his travels, he ran into all kinds of problems in every village he went to, from slave trading to evil and greedy leaders. He began to fight and free the slaves, dispose the leaders, and save entire townships. He eventually earned the name Anansi, the Liberator. And after 2 years' travel at the age of 23, he finally runs into his siblings at the village of Ajay and tells them of the events that happened. They all cried and maligned their training with the Ajay. The 5 brothers began to argue about the best way to seek revenge. Suddenly, Anansi hollers, "Brothers, fight me, to see who is the strongest. If you all win, I will follow you. But if I win, you all must follow me. For I have a plan for conquest and unity. If I win, we go to the Ivory Palace and train in the Gate of Champions, join the king's army, and unite Alkebulan under my kingship." His brothers laughed, saying, "Beat us, kingship, and follow you. Us follow Anansi, the lays about, Anansi the trickster." "Ha!" The 4 brothers laughed. "You could never beat us." What they had not known was that during his 2 years of travel, Anansi became strong and stronger, as they had not heard the tales of his many victories yet, due to them being in the village of the Ajay. They did not know that his Idan and combat skill had fast surpassed theirs, due to his experience on the battlefield. The eldest brother Heru spoke sternly, "Anansi, this is laughable, though you are very talented, even more than I. You are lazy and unmotivated. We will not fight you today. You will listen to us, and we will get revenge." And right before the others could speak, the elder Ajay Ashanti spoke to Anansi, saying, "Come here, young one. Let me take a good look at you." Anansi stood up, shook his head, "Yes," then walked over. Ashanti grabs Anansi's hand, looks at it, flicks his hair, then looks into his eyes and says, "Yes, yes," and whispers into Anansi's ear, "You are the unifier, Anansi, Anansi the vagabond, Anansi the lays about, Anansi the trickster. You are no more. No, you're Anansi, the liberator, Anansi the kind, Anansi the Isakopo. We Aja know of you and have known of you, before your parents had even known of you. Ifu Anansi, this is a fight you will win." Anansi looks shocked by her words. She steps away and says, "Brothers of Impondulu, you will fight your youngest brother Anansi. If you do not wish to fight him, you will fight me in his stead." She finished cheekedly. The 4 brothers were taken aback, yelling, "Ajay, but—" She interrupts, "I have spoken, you 5 will fight in the rising, with one caveat. You 4 must fight Anansi at the same time. Now rest up. You 5 have a big day tomorrow." She turns around, folds her arms behind her back, giggling to herself as she walks away. The brothers are not pleased, but the Ajay's decrees cannot be challenged. They stare at Anansi angrily before they look to head off. Ajay Ashanti says, "Oh, show Anansi to his room. I am so tired. Will you help an old lady?" The brothers in unison say, "Yes, Ajay, we will." Once again they give Anansi a stern look and show him to his quarters for the night. The next day, in the training yard, which is meager in size, 60 yards by 60 yards, surrounded by and small rickety wooden fence made of old tree limbs, a compacted dirt floor, and a few oldish-looking wooden training dummies. stands Anansi surrounded by his 4 brothers, Heru, Adechiki, and Amadu. A vibrant and excited crowd of 80 people stand watch to see if Anansi will win. The Ajay Ashanti stands just outside of the gate and begins to start the match. She says, "Today we have a special honor. Today the 5 brothers of Impundulu will fight to see who will become the leader of the house. Will the brothers become unified under Anansi and his will to unite the land of Alkebulan, or will they go travel and seek revenge on the marauders that ravaged their village?" The crowd gasped in awe and shock at the announcement. They clamored with excitement. Ajay Ashanti raises her arm, and in one swift motion of her arm, swinging down and breath saying, "Begin!" Amadu, the 3rd oldest brother, bellows, "Youngest brother Anansi, we will not go easy on you." As the 4 charge in, Anansi retorts, "Nor I you," as his brothers charge him. Anansi channels his Idan. His eyes become a white as clouds, brilliant white lines runs down his arms, on his face and body. He focuses energy into his fist. As they glow, a bright yellow, he emits a burst of energy from his body, sending a wave of dust across the ground. He throws his fist in the air, bringing it down, punching the ground, sending a shock wave through the earth beneath their feet. The ground cracks and ripples, knocking over the spectators and sending his 4 brothers flying in the air. Anansi sees the chance. He bolts off, strings of yellow light flashing behind him, racing at full speed towards aid. Anansi jumped, breaking the ground as he leaps. Anansi grabs Aid by the arm, pulls him closer, and punches him in the stomach, knocking him out. Anansi then kicks off Aid's body to propel himself to Amadu. Aid crashed to the ground, bang, leaving a 2-foot-deep dent in the ground. Anansi catches Amandu by the leg, spinning him around and launches him out the ring. Amadu's body crashes through 2 trees, breaking them, as his body bounces into the 3rd one, where he comes to a stop and is knocked out. Anansi lands on the ground, then swiftly looks to his left and dashes in Chiki's direction. Anansi leaps, using 2 feet to kick off a chunk of ground that is still in the air. Anansi's right arm is extended. Anansi grabs Chiki by the abdomen, hurling him to the ground. Cheek's body slams into the ground with a thunderous boom. Cheek's eyes go white, and he gasps for air as he hits the ground. Stone is slamming into the ground as Anansi looks up to see Heru. Anansi thinks to himself quickly, "I didn't want to use this right now, but I'm losing things to jump off. The chunks of ground are falling faster than I thought they would. Guess I have to if I want to win this fight." Anansi shouts, "Wings of light!" Then 2 white wings tipped with gold appeared on Anansi's back, with one mighty flap of his wings. Anansi speeds towards Heru and hits him in the gut with the handle of his sword, knocking out his oldest and strongest brother. Catching him in his arms and floating down to the ground, placing his eldest brother at the feet of Ashanti. No one was able to see what had transpired but the Ajay. The fight was over as quick as it started. Healers walk over to administer aid brothers for their injuries. After Heru, Adi, Chiki, and Amadu wake up, Ajay Ashanti declared Anansi the winner. "See, young Sango, your ancestor Anansi was not always a great man at the beginning. He became that way. But you, Sango, are made that way. Anansi grew strong to defend and avenge those he loved. You, Sango, were made strong. You never quit. You've never lazed about. You are already greater than Anansi. Our training is over for the day. Go play. We will continue your training tomorrow." Sango quickly stood up and said, "Sorry, Sikisi. I will never say such a thing ever again," then ran off to go find his playmates. Sikisi sits down, sighing to himself, having the thought, "How can I protect this boy? How can I guide this boy when he doubts the talent he has?"